Merry Christmas!
Merry Christmas!
So we come today to celebrate Jesus bringing the light. And for many of us, we have some issues with that. Whether they be, was Jesus real or was he just a myth? Was he, were we so turned off by our Catholic background or Jewish background or whatever that we can't relate to it at all? We have questions, many of us, as to what this really means. And so I'd like to clear some of that up if I can for you today. And I'm going to try to put this in an historical perspective, for starters, and then work our way from there. In the time of Jesus, particularly in the time of Paul, the biggest and most important religion of the Roman Empire was something called Mithraism. And their god Mithra was the son of God. Their god Mithra, let me make sure I got all this here, had 3 wise men of Persia come and visit when he was born and bring gold, myrrh, and frankincense. Their god Mithra was based on one of the oldest ideas known to man, the first concepts we started thinking about, which is, what's going on with the sun? Why isn't it staying up there in the sky? What's going on? And so they watched the sun very, very carefully 10, 15,000 years ago. And they watched it come down in the sky. And around the time we call December 21st or December 22nd, they noticed that it stopped going down. But they noticed something else that I was not aware of, and you may not be, that it actually stayed down for 3 days before it started coming back up. And so December 25th became a very important holiday from the beginning of time, because it was the moment at which the sun began to come back up in the sky, resurrected, reborn. Many folks think that the important date is December 21st or 2nd, the equinox, when it stops going down. But our ancients knew that the more important date was when it actually started coming back up. And so the Mithraism, Mithra was the god of the sun coming back up to the sky. Now we can go back way further than Mithra. We could go to 800 BC in Phrygia, which is now Turkey. They had a god named Attis, their sun god, also known as the Father and Divine Son. He was the Savior, and he was buried for 3 days before he was released to begin his rise into the sky. We go back to, and that was 800 BC. We go back to 1500 BC to Dionysus in Greece, where once again we have someone born of a virgin. Now, let's be clear here about the whole virgin idea, okay? All demigods throughout history were born of virgins, a virgin birth. They came, the interesting part about monotheism that we celebrate today, that we think our ancients didn't, they totally believed in monotheism. They totally believed there was one creator. What came out of that creator was all what they called demigods. The pagan gods, as we call them today. But they all came from the one. And these demigods, some were in the sky, some walked the earth. But they all, because they came from the one, had what we call virgin births. And so this idea of virgin birth is as old as we are on this planet. The idea of a rising light into the sky is as old as we are. Going back further than 15,000, we have 2000 BC, Heracles of Greece. He too was called the Savior and the only begotten Son, the Prince of Peace. 2500 BC, Osiris of Egypt. He was actually called the Christ, the Anointed One. So these ideas are as ancient as humanity. Now, what does that mean in terms of Jesus? Does that mean what he said or who he was doesn't matter? No. It means that this thing is built so deep into our psyche. This is really important to us. Since the beginning of time, we have felt the need for saving. We have felt the need for the sun to come back into the sky, for the light to not just fill the sky, but to fill us. And so this is an important concept that we need to embrace our entire humanity. It doesn't matter. One of the greatest teachings that I got was, a teacher once said to me, it doesn't matter whether a story is true. It matters whether it's alive. And so what we have here is a story that is very much alive within us. Jesus brought us these amazing teachings that are just so important. The Good Samaritan. The idea that somebody who was hated by Jews was the one to stop and pick up the Jew who was beaten and thrown into the gutter. Took him home and healed him. The Trinity that I relate to is the one called kindness, compassion, and wisdom. To me, this is the heart of Jesus' teachings that he brought. Whether Paul then mythified him or not, whether he walked on water or not, whether he rose again or not, does not change the fact that he brought a light to the world that is here for us to shine with, that we can take within what we call the Christ consciousness. That we can easily get lost in the literal ideas. But there's a reason that even atheists give gifts around this time, whether they believe in Christmas or not. There's a reason that lights shine everywhere. We believe in that light. It's in our psyche. It's way deeper than the story. It's alive within us. The prodigal son. The idea that a son took his inheritance, went away in the world, and blew it. And when he came home, his father embraced him. This is a story of kindness, compassion, and wisdom. This is what we bring. This is the importance of what we can see in this season and take forth from as the sun goes up in the sky, begins getting back to its apex. We too can rise, each and every one of us. We rise from within. This is an ancient story that goes back to the beginning of our being on this planet. The story of resurrection, rebirth, bringing light. So many of the gods before Jesus were war gods. So if we embrace Jesus as a God, as the Prince of Peace, let it be that. Let it be the peace. However you want to call or embrace. Some people don't even like the word God anymore. They want to use the word Spirit. It doesn't matter. It's not worth arguing over. What is important is that we embrace kindness, compassion, wisdom. The Buddhists say that compassion without wisdom is misguided, and that wisdom without compassion is useless. It really takes both to bring it together. And that's what Jesus stood for. And deep within us, we have this place. We have this wonderful, wonderful light that he brought, and many before him brought, for us to have within us, that the ancients thought up, that was within their psyche. Really important to us, or this myth would not stand up. You know, if this wasn't something that was deeply ingrained in who we are as a people, there are many stories that have died out through the ages. This is not one of them. It stands strong for us today. We celebrate it more than once a year. On the 25th, and then again at Easter. And there are those who think we celebrate that because there's fundamentalists who make a stand for it. But no, it's deeper than that. It's in our psyche. It's in each of us, that yearning for salvation, for rebirth, for owning that Christ consciousness within us. Jesus had another parable, one I really like. It's about children in the market. And he said, "To what can I compare this generation? They are like children sitting in the marketplace, calling out to others, 'We played the pipe for you, and you did not dance. We sang a dirge, and you did not mourn.'" This is an ancient story. Because shamans throughout the ages, whenever people were sick or down, they would ask them, "When did you stop dancing? When did you stop singing? When did you stop being enchanted by stories? When did silence stop comforting you?" This is a time to rejoice. The sun is rising again. We may know something the ancients didn't, which is it'll rise whether we sacrifice or not. But they knew something we didn't, which is that that light shines so brightly within each of us is worth celebrating no matter what you call it. So I bring to you today the idea that this is a time to celebrate. To bring the light forth. Light as many candles as you can find. Light as many lights as you can find. Not just outwardly, but inwardly. There's this great candle lighting ceremony where it starts with one candle, and then everybody has a candle. And that one candle lights somebody else's candle, who then lights somebody else's candle. And then those two light somebody else's candle. And then they light somebody else's candle. Until the entire room, candles were lit. But they started from this one. And so I task each of you to go light others' candles. Make sure you get yours lit. And then go out and light other candles. And do it with kindness, compassion, and wisdom. Thank you.